Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something a little different. We're looking at the intersection of gaming and, well, incredible human skill. Video game speedrunning. And specifically, we've been digging into whether those absolutely mind-boggling world records are, the real deal, or if there's maybe some trickery going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. You shared some really interesting stuff with us from a podcast. I think it was called Speedrun Shenanigans, Fact or Fake. And it really dives into that skepticism, doesn't it, about these just amazing digital feats.
Right, it does. And that's sort of our mission for you listening today. We want to unpack what speedrunning really is.
Right.
Understand why some records make you kind of raise your eyebrows. Explore the, let's say, inventive ways someone might try to fake a run. And also look at how the community tries to, keep everything on the level.
And motivations too, right? Why push for them? And maybe why fake one?
Exactly. So, okay, let's kick off with the basics. What is speedrunning? I mean, it's more than just playing fast, right?
Oh, definitely. It's this fascinating mix of skill, deep strategy, and sometimes like bending the game itself. The Speedrun Shenanigans material really highlighted this. It often means knowing a game inside out, like down to the code almost, so runners can use glitches, perform these incredibly precise actions.
Very perfect stuff.
Exactly. Frame perfect maneuvers. And leveraging game mechanics in ways the designers maybe never saw coming.
Yeah, they use Super Mario Bros. As an example. That world record, under 5 minutes.
Crazy, isn't it?
It seems impossible if you've just played it normally. But it's done using these, specific techniques. Clipping through balls.
Just for exploiting little programming quirks.
Yeah, it's like finding a secret highway the developers didn't even know they built.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just conventional skill. It's mastering the most efficient path, even if it's unintended, and relying on those glitches, those super specific techniques. That's sometimes where the questions start.
Which, brings us nicely to some of the records that make people suspicious. Let's talk Minecraft.
Yeah.
Any percent seed runs. So for anyone not deep in Minecraft, any percent is just fastest completion, basically.
Right. Beat the Ender Dragon. That's the goal.
And seed is the random world you start in. The records are now, what, around 20 minutes?
Yeah, roughly. In that ballpark.
So what's the skepticism there? How are they getting so fast?
Well, the intriguing part is how quickly runners seem to find these incredibly lucky starting worlds, these perfect seeds. The suspicion, as the podcast guys talked about, is whether some runners might be using, external tools to generate and check tons of seeds offline, looking for that perfect layout.
So finding one that gives them, instant access to the stuff they need to beat the dragon super fast.
Precisely. Quick access to resources, key structures.
So it's not just the 20 minutes of the gameplay, it's potentially hours of unseen prep finding the perfect starting gun.
That's the concern, yeah. It's almost like pre-computation. And some in the community feel that maybe goes against the spirit of just, running the game with the luck you're given.
It sidesteps the randomness, which is a big part of Minecraft. Okay, I get that. Then there was Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And the wind bomb.
Ah, yes, the wind bomb.
That glitch lets players launch Link just huge distances, right? Cuts down time massive.
Sporadically, yeah.
So where's the doubt creeping in with this one?
It's about the execution, particularly at the very top level. Wind bombs need super precise button inputs. Multiple buttons, really tight timing, just a few frames.
Okay.
The worry or the suspicion is that maybe some top runners are using hidden macros.
Macros, like scripts.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-programmed button sequences to nail those complex inputs perfectly every single time, which would be, frankly, incredibly hard to do manually with that consistency.
So the glitch is real.
Yeah.
It's in the game's physics. But the question is whether automation is being used to trigger it perfectly, giving an unfair advantage.
Exactly. Like you said, it takes away the human skill element of actually performing the difficult maneuver.
Right. Like a musician using a machine for a solo instead of practicing it.
Good analogy. And that sort of leads us into the bigger picture. How do people fake speedruns? Speedrun Shenanigans touched on the obvious ways, but also the sneakier stuff. What did they mention?
Well, the really blatant ones are, what you'd expect. Splicing video clip together.
Classic video editing trickery.
Yeah, making it look like one smooth run. Or just using cheat codes, obviously.
God mode, infinite ammo, that kind of thing.
Or messing with a timer, just flat out lying about the time.
Sure, those are the low-hanging fruit, I guess. But what about the harder-to-spot methods? The podcast mentions some more subtle stuff.
They did. Editing save files was one.
Okay. How would that work?
Well, you could potentially skip big chunks of the game, or maybe start a section with better items or stats, without it being obvious just watching the video.
Right, manipulating the game state behind the scenes.
And then there's hiding loading times. That's a classic issue, isn't it?
Definitely.
Cutting the video cleverly. Or like that GoldenEye controversy they brought up.
Oh, yeah, the pausing thing.
Pausing the game during loads to shave off seconds that wouldn't show on an in-game timer, but definitely add up.
That GoldenEye case, even though proof was hard to pin down back then, really put a spotlight on, time manipulation that isn't immediately obvious gameplay cheating.
It really underscores why verification is so important then. You need checks and balances.
Absolutely critical. Otherwise, the whole leaderboard concept just falls apart. Platforms like Speedrun.com, they have pretty strict rules now.
Like what kind of rules?
Well, the podcast detailed things like mandatory full video proofs, unedited, continuous recording of the whole attempt.
Makes sense.
Often need a visible timer overlay, sometimes separate from the game zone timer. And sometimes, for really major records, even live witnesses.
Wow, okay, so multiple layers of proof.
Trying to build transparency, yeah, makes faking much harder.
But, the hosts on Speedrun Shenanigans still sounded a bit skeptical. Like, is it really foolproof?
Well, it's probably not perfect. It's always evolving, isn't it? Kind of a cat and mouse game. Moderators improve rules. Maybe someone finds a new loophole. And human review isn't infallible. Mistakes happen, maybe biases creep in, though the community is usually pretty good at self-policing.
That peer review aspect seems key. Lots of knowledgeable eyes looking for tiny errors.
It's surprisingly effective, yeah. People notice weird things.
So, okay, if it's hard to pull off and you risk getting caught, why bother faking? What's the motivation?
Well, the podcast hosts hit on the big ones. Fame, online recognition. That's huge now. A world record gets you clicks, views on YouTube, Twitch followers.
Builds a brand, basically.
Totally. And that attention can lead to real money, right?
Sponsorships?
Yeah.
Merch? Maybe even a career in esports or streaming.
Exactly. If you're seen as the best, companies might want to associate with you. There's definite financial potential.
But as they also pointed out, the community is watching.
Closely. Oh, yeah. They're dedicated. And often very quick to call out fakes. Getting caught means, public humiliation, losing all credibility, bans. It's a big risk.
I had that great example, the Halo runner. Splicing Twitch clips. How did that unravel?
That was a fantastic catch by the community. Shows their attention to detail. Viewers noticed that the little LED lights on the guy's controller in the video, they didn't match up with the input supposedly happening in the game footage. A tiny mismatch, but enough to expose the whole thing.
Wow. Like digital forensics by the fans? Incredible.
Isn't it? It shows how seriously they take authenticity.
Okay, now the podcast had that fun segment, Myth or Glitch.
Yeah.
They threw out some claims. Let's run through those. First one, a Dark Souls runner used a secret button combo to delete the final boss. Myth. Or some crazy glitch.
According to them, that specific claim, a myth. No magic delete button, sadly for some players, maybe.
Right.
But they did mention there is a known, let's call it unconventional skip for a big part of that fight, involving, well, strategic use of poop. Let's just leave it there.
Okay, right. So not deleting, but definitely exploiting something weird and wonderful in the game.
Precisely. A testament to player ingenuity, finding strange, but technically legitimate shortcuts.
Gotcha. Okay, next claim. The Portal World Record uses an AI bot to click portals at superhuman speed. Myth or real?
That one, they said, is a myth.
Oh, okay. He looks so fast, almost robotic sometimes.
It does, but apparently that's just the result of insane amounts of practice. Thousands of hours. It's human players pushing dexterity and reaction time to the absolute limit, not bots. Real skill.
That's actually kind of reassuring. Shows what dedication can achieve.
Totally.
All right, last one. Ninja hacked Sonic 06 to teleport to the end credits. Myth or legit exploit?
This one's interesting. According to Speedrun Shenanigans, it's legit.
Really? He hacked the game.
Well, hacked might be strong. It's more about the context. Sonic 06 is famously, notoriously broken, full of glitches.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't like external hacking tools, but using the game's own brokenness against itself.
Exactly. He likely used an existing known exploit within the game's flawed programming to basically skip everything and trigger the end credits. It really shows how the definition of a legit speedrun can depend heavily on the game itself. If the game is fundamentally broken, using those breaks might be fair game within that specific community.
That's fascinating. So speedrunning isn't monolithic. It covers everything from precise glitch execution in stable games
Right.
to just wrestling with a barely functional game and using its own flaws to win.
Perfectly put. And that kind of brings us towards wrapping up this deep dive. It seems clear that, yeah, the huge majority of records are legit. Community scrutiny, the verification processes, they work pretty well. But the possibility of fakes and these weird little mysteries and controversies, they're definitely still part of the speedrunning world.
So for everyone listening, it's worth thinking about that dedication, the sheer ingenuity, not just to get the records, but maybe even to fake them convincingly.
Right.
What's the drive for speed, for recognition in digital worlds? Tell us about, I don't know, human ambition and how skill, tech, and trust all intersect and evolve. Pretty interesting stuff. And hey, if you want to go deeper, that YouTube channel the podcast mentioned, Summoning Salt.
Oh, yeah. Great recommendation.
Apparently, they do really detailed documentaries on speedrunning history, records, controversies.
Yeah.
Sounds like a proper rabbit hole.
It definitely does. It seems like speedrunning, it looks niche on the surface, but it touches on these bigger themes: competition, community, virtual versus real. Lots to think about.